What's up, guys? I'm back with a 55. Figured I'd show you guys what we've been up to and what we're making progress on. Finally get some things done on it. The Mazda is actually on the back burner right now. We're waiting on parts to come in for it, so while we're not working on it, we're trying to get some work done on this car and get a little more caught up. As I mentioned in the previous video, we're working on moving the engine rearward in it, moving it back to gain more clearance up front, because the person who built it originally didn't set the engine in the correct position. We're trying to finish up some more of the wiring for the exterior lighting on the car, get a lot of that wrapped up, loose ends wrapped up, so we can start working more on integrating the engine harness into the car. And I just want to reiterate that there are a lot of things on this car that we did not do. We recently just started really getting to work on the car. Most of the work was done by other people previously, other shops. There's a lot of things, a lot of things that I'm not happy with on this car. Some we're working on correcting, some the owner just wants to leave it be. It doesn't bother him. So I'll try to point out what we've done and what we didn't do, so you guys don't blame us for any of this crap work you might see on here. So yeah, just keep that in mind as we go through this. So we've been working on getting the rear lighting wiring finished up, and it's kind of a mess under here right now. There are zip ties everywhere holding things in place, but getting all that routed down through here. These are going to go to the tag lights, these brown wires here, but we don't have the bumper, which is where the tag lights live, in the little bumperettes. We don't have those, so just kind of mocking it up for right now. The reverse light wires, which are not in place. We do have the tail light wiring in. The tail lights are rough. These are what came with the car. They're a bit old. They're missing a few pieces, but we're trying to figure out if the owner wants to restore these, or if he wants to just replace the whole assemblies, which is what I would recommend. But when he gets back in town, we'll check with him and see what he wants to do. But we've got a lot done with this wiring. This blue wire is going away. Ignore it. This is our fuel level wire. It's got to go under there. Yes, the frame is kind of, that is what it is. Bodywork is not pristine. After doing some inspection and getting ready to move the engine back, we discovered there were a few more issues with the frame than we had anticipated. It's pretty rough. So we currently have the front clip off the car. Engine and transmission have been removed, and as you can tell, the work that was done on this frame is not good at all. This is rough. You can see bad welds. Whatever they did here, there's body filler in the frame. You can see right there, right there. That's where they cut the 70-something Camaro front subframe. Cut it about right here, and then grafted on the 55 front section, and then grafted the Camaro subframe into the 55 frame down there. So as you can tell, since the last video, we've removed the front cap, we've removed the engine and transmission from the car to get down to the frame. The cross member, the transmission cross member, has been moved backwards 3 inches. We've been working on getting the frame cleaned up. The guys who built this frame originally, that the owner of the car purchased the frame from, they apparently used a lot of body filler to try to make the frame more aesthetically pleasing. The frame doesn't appear to be rusted out or anything. They just slathered it in body filler to make it look better. It's supposed to be a show frame or something, but whatever. It's not our doing. Not happy with it, but you know, the owner paid a lot for it, and that's what he's happy with or okay with. The brake lines, we'll get to that here in a second. We'll talk about that in a minute. First off, though, what we're doing now is we've got to clean up all these butchered welds, because this is a second-gen Camaro front frame section from the firewall forward, and then they have the 55 frame horns grafted into the front section of that. But everywhere they did some cutting on it and welding, it's just ugly. So we're going to clean all that up, get that properly welded. We've also got to weld some extensions in here to try to gain us a little more clearance for mounting the engine a little further backwards. We've got to recreate a few of these plates because they're butchered up from, you know, the previous shop's installation attempt. You can see the brake lines a lot better now with the engine out, and this is just, it's bad. Like I mentioned in the previous video, I mean, they've got a brake line running over the top of the transmission, secured to nothing. I mean, Literally, nothing holding that in place. This brake line runs in the frame. Huge no-no there. It's just terrible down there. We're going to have to do something with that. We're going to have to fix that somehow. Route the brake lines in a more conventional manner, if you will. I did mention last time the car has QA1 coilovers. You can see those down here. Don't know the history of them. Assuming they came on the frame when the owner purchased the frame from a different shop. It does have tubular upper and lower arms. It's rack and pinion as well. So we're going to face a lot of issues moving the engine back. One of the problems we're going to run into is header clearance, because the headers they had on it, which I showed before, don't really clear anything. We're going to run a different style header on there. The heater core outlets, what you see right here, are inlet and outlet from the water pump that run out to the heater core. Those are going to interfere with this area here, or this control arm is going to interfere with those. So that's something else we got to deal with. I'm not sure what the solution is for that. We'll know better once we get the engine in the car. It can kind of figure out what we're looking at there. We've also been working inside the car. We've finally got our firewall grommet in there. We've also been working on getting the Dakota Digital gauge cluster control module mounted and wired up in there. We're going to take the fuse block for the engine, because the car has an American Auto wire kit, as I mentioned before. That fuse block that powers the ignition, the gauge cluster, the lighting, exterior lighting, interior lighting, all that stuff, that fuse block is mounted in the stock position where it goes. The engine has its own fuse block. We typically do our own fuse block with the LS harnesses to have more circuits for better protection on the harness, instead of trying to chain it all together into like 2 or 3 fuses under the dash and then add a bunch of relays that we need. So that fuse block down there, looking all rough, dirty. I haven't even inspected that. We built that harness like a year and a half ago. Don't know what's been done to it since then. But I decided we're going to take that fuse block and mount it inside here on the other side of this firewall, and then run the wiring out through here, most likely, to tie into the harness. It's looking like that's the route we're going to go. We've also got to get an accelerator pedal for it. We don't have one yet, so we need that so we can figure out our clearances in there. But hopefully this week we'll have the engine back in the car and the front cap back on it, and really be figuring out the positioning of everything and where our interference problems are going to be. The drive shaft laying on the floor down there has got to go to the driveline shop. I'm going to have it shortened because I already had it built for where the engine was setting previously. It's not going to work for this. Another thing we got to do is deal with the knock sensor sub harness. When they tightened down the intake manifold at the previous shop, they pinched the wire, which was already spliced in there. So that sub harness is junk. That's going to have to go away. The oil pressure sending unit was broken. We're going to have to change that. We got to clean the heads because someone fogged this thing with Chevrolet orange, and it's all up in here on the heads and the ports. We've got to go through all that. They've also had the engine sitting without the PCV system hooked up or spark plugs in it or anything like that for a good while down at the body shop and the other shop that it was at previously. And so there's questionable material down inside the valve cover. So we're going to need to pull the valve covers and inspect those, figure out what's going on in there, what kind of dirt and debris has gotten in it, try to clean that out before any fire up attempt is done on this car. So we got the motor mounts redone on the frame. We got the frame cleaned up a bit. We've got plates welded to the frame now for the tabs, and they're all set towards the rear to be able to move the engine backwards. All the frame area underneath these plates was cleaned up. All the cracks were, repaired and everything. Plates were welded on. The motor's been test fit already to make sure we got all our angles right on it. We're getting ready to drop the engine back in for the final time. I just want to show you guys what we had to do under here in order to get this thing repositioned. And if you remember what it looked like in the old video, you can tell how drastically different this setup is from the old setup. Alright guys, we got the engine back in the car, we got the front end back on the car, we got the wiring finished up for the lighting in the front of the car. Now we're going to show you what we're running into fitment wise and what we've got worked out solution wise for a few different things. So the coil packs that were on here, the square truck style, are a little closer to the brake booster than what we wanted. So we have a mock-up set. It's literally a set that we use just for testing of the heatsink style coils, which mount a little lower down where the spark plug actually goes on, our spark plug boot goes on for the wire, and they mount a little further up, which gives us more clearance to the booster. So we're going to end up swapping to that style for the car. The headers don't fit. Well, the driver's side does. The driver's side's fine. It's got plenty of room. The passenger side runs into the frame, which we already knew was probably going to be an issue. And also, this primary is way too close to this control arm, which will end up melting the bushing out of it. So we've got to find a set of headers that run a little more towards the back and put the collector out down in that area there. So the heater core ports are running into the issue we suspected they were going to. They run into the control arm. We're going to try to remove these fittings from the water pump, thread the pump, and come out with a 90 or a 45 degree AN to a hose barb to be able to clear the control arms down there. We also got the wiring done for the lighting and we got it loomed up. Everything's completed under here. The grommets in, the connectors are on. We don't have all of the little retainer clips. We still got to get those and the ones that run underneath this channel. The horns, we also don't have the horns, so those wires are just chilling. But the lighting side is done. We're happy with that. Finally got that finished. The brake lines, ignore those. They're just chilling out of the way right now. We got to rerun all of those, figure out how to make them fit the to the cross member and not be over the transmission as they were. So now we have a lot more room though, front to back on the engine. We can actually get an intake tube on here. We've got room to get to the front accessories. We've got room for a puller fan somewhere in this area or two, most likely. So everything fits a lot better. The engine's about 3 inches further back than what it was before. So yeah, now we just got to work out those fitment issues, order some parts, start getting the rest of the engine back together. We got to have the knock sensor sub harness, a new oil pressure sending unit, new intake manifold gaskets, various things like that we've got to take care of on the car. We've still got a long ways to go before we fire it up, but it's getting there slowly but surely. We're going to try to focus on the interior wiring next, try to get more of that done, and then get to a point where we can put the engine harness back on it and start marrying the engine harness to the interior main vehicle harness. So that's where we're at. Don't know how long it'll be to the next video, but that's the current update. So anyways, check out our new merch. Be sure to go to our store, link in the description. Buy you a t-shirt or hoodie. We've got various colors and sizes available, not just black and white. Looks like that when you go to the store, but there's more than that on there. So check one out, support us, because we need money to do more dumb stuff. So help us out, support us, buy some merch, like, subscribe, comment, follow us on Facebook and Instagram as well. See you guys later.
We also have iPhone cases too for people that might want new phone cases, just to let y'all know.